At 55, I hit a really hard time and I started to get hives and but I remember things happening and I kept going to the doctor saying something's not right with my body. And they said, well,
Yeah.
take these antidepressants or, yeah. And I said, I don't think it's antidepressants. Like, I don't, and then they were like, well, take these steroids. And I'm like, I don't think it's that. Like, I just kept, going back and they were like, no, it's nothing. You just keep going or welcome to old age,
Yeah.
and I just kept feeling like something's off, but okay, I'm going to get back at it. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat better. And then at 56, 57, I got into another round of something where we were doing cardio 6 days a week and, all the eating and certain things like really amped it up. And my body just kind of went, no. And I was saying to my partner, something's not right. My cortisol was spiking and I felt buzzy inside and something was wrong.
Jittery.
And after that, I started to develop a belly, like an inner tube around my belly. And I started to have these cortisol spikes. Like I just thought I was like, amped up and couldn't sleep. I would be so tired. I would lie down.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom in Bloom podcast with Kamisha and myself. I am Denise, and we are doing a collaboration with Carolyn Hawes of Finding 50 podcast. If you guys remember her from a previous episode, you will be seeing more of her. Our collaboration is just beginning, and we're so excited for the future. She is a creative artist. She's a voiceover. I mean, I think there's about 7 hats that she wears, and we're
Feels that way
always
sometimes.
excited. Always
It's awesome to be
excited.
here.
Always excited to have you on, Carolyn. Always.
Thank
Tonight,
you.
we're also going to bring to you, as we share all of our menopausal stories with you, Miss Melanie Nelson. She is a Canadian filmmaker. She's a storyteller, an event producer. She's driven by passion for connecting people and sharing experience, which is what we love. We're so happy she's here. She's the founder of Tasty Life Company. And that I want to hear more about, Miss Melanie, as we get into this conversation. You inspire individuals, you organize and embrace joy, growth, and personal through your documentaries that you're developing. You do a popular workshop called Joy Plan, and you're also building a world where people thrive with authenticity, kindness, and community. And I believe you are partnering with Miss Carol as y'all are promoting a TV treatment that you guys co wrote together, bringing older women's story to life in a fun and educational way. Just our kind of women. Talk to us a little bit about this 12-year journey that you've been on in menopause and how it affected you as a person, as we know that we're going to have similar things that goes on, but it affects our community different, but I would love to hear your 12-year story.
I was learning about that a bit. Yeah, for me, I tried to write down some of my years or highlights, my menopause journey highlights. But things were happening that I didn't know were happening. And I look at it now, and my mom had tennis elbow, they called it, but she was probably had frozen shoulder.
Frozen
The way,
shoulder.
like the way that she was like this, my shoulder isn't working, but they were like, well, it's probably tennis elbow, but just in your shoulder.
Does that even make sense? No.
And she got diabetes older, and she got,
It's tennis elbow in your vagina.
Collarbone.
it was, so for me, I menopause at 47. My mom passed away when I was 47. So, I nursed her for the last 2 years. So it made sense to me that came on early for me. And I kind of rocked into 50, and I was like, I am going to live this motherfucking decade. I'm going at 30, I said to myself, is this midlife? And I was like, in my community, older women would cut their hair and get a perm. And I was like, do I get a perm now, or what do I do? And I was like, I don't feel old. So I'm just going to go. I'm going to go till I don't till I
Yeah.
stopped. So 50 right into it. And then I started to gain some weight. So I started keto. I had a friend who's a nurse, and I got really deep into keto and fasting and teaching other people, found Dr. Fung. And 55, I hit a really hard time, and I started to get hives, and but I remember things happening, and I kept going to the doctor saying something's not right with my body. And they said, well, take these antidepressants, or, yeah. And I said, I don't think it's antidepressants. Like, and then they were like, well, take these steroids. And I'm like, I don't think it's that. Like, I just kept, going back, and they were like, no, it's nothing. You just keep going, or, or welcome to old age, and,
Yeah.
and I just kept feeling like something's off, but okay, I'm going to get back at it. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat better. And then at 56, 57, I got into another round of something where we were doing cardio 6 days a week, and all the eating and certain things like really amped it up, and my body just kind of went no. And I was saying to my partner, something's not right, and my cortisol was spiking, and I felt buzzy inside, and something was wrong.
Jittery.
And after that, I started to develop a belly, like an inner tube around my belly. And I started to have these cortisol spikes. Like, I just thought I was like, amped up and couldn't sleep. I would be so tired. I would lie down completely awake, like just an on button, just buzzing. And I was exhausted, and it just wasn't working. And I went off of foods and went on foods, and my skin, I started to have skin issues. I started to have eye issues. In my 40s, I remember losing a side tooth, like for just out of the blue. And it turns out that's hormones. Like,
Your baby tooth. It was the baby tooth.
just my side tooth. And Tamsin Fidel was interviewing Sherry Shepherd on a thing recently, and both of them were like side tooth girls, estrogen.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
And I've lost both my side teeth, like, and
mine are gone too.
good hygiene.
Really? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to
Isn't it
get a
something?
bridge. I had to get a bridge. It's gone.
Yeah. They say that
didn't know that was what
women.
it was.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was like, what happened? And the dentist was like, well, I said, no, like,
It's gotta be
Nobody
something.
knows.
Yeah.
Nobody
just
knows.
cracked and dead and done. And the old age, or the old story of if you have a daughter, they'll rob you of your beauty, and they take your teeth, and if you have like, those were old wives' tales that they would say. So I think there's something woven into that, like a knowledge of, but it wasn't attributed to estrogen, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, at 58, just, things weren't really going well. And I really had to stop working out. My cortisol was through the roof. My cholesterol went up. My glucose went up. Like, everything was kind of nuts. And my doctor said, let's try some HRT. And I was doing a lot of research about it. And so I went and did it. And I have my little pill here, and I was taking the absolute smallest dose. There's my little estrogen. And this little pill, I started taking it, estrogen, 0.5 milligrams. And I started sleeping like within the week.
Oh my God.
In the week. And I was saying, I don't think anything's changing, but my family all started to see the change. Like, they all started. And I had a girlfriend earlier that said, geez, you're so anxious. And I said, I know, like, I don't want to be, like, this isn't what I want to, but I felt nervous being away from my husband. I felt nervous, like, all these things. I felt nervous. I just felt anxious about things. And that started to change, and like, it became me again, like it was just remarkable. And the brain fog started to leave, and the inside, that cortisol, I felt like there was a histamine, like just spray cans going off inside. That started to calm down. And so I started to take this with my doctor, and I've been on it for 8 months or 9 months now, and we've just upped it again a little bit, like another 0.5. He said a lot of his client or customer patients are at 10 and I'm doing 0.5 right now, and I'm going up to 1 milligram. We're just testing it for 2 months.
Right.
And I'm nervous, right? I know the research that it's not true, this connection with breast cancer. Like they've shown the reports of those tests weren't accurate. But
you wonder,
still
Melanie,
nervous.
but you wonder how could they be accurate, because we had estrogen before.
Yes.
We're losing estrogen, which is we're trying to replace
Yes.
what we had before.
Yeah.
So how is it that now that I find some of the things that they say is because they don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
But there's stuff that we're losing as a result of menopause that has to be replaced. It's almost like we're losing vitamin D. So you have to take a vitamin D supplement.
That's right.
No one is saying that vitamin D is giving you cancer.
All these cancers,
you know
right? Exactly. Yeah.
So I had my doctor say, well, you're losing vitamin D, you're losing calcium. So you have to take a supplement or a pill or something to replace it. It's the same thing with estrogen. And I've learned that even women, we have a tiny amount of testosterone too that lives within us, and we begin to lose a little bit of that. So that estrogen kind of comes in and says, hey, hello, can I join the party? Can I help y'all build that a little bit better? So you always wonder, you don't know who to believe. There's so much information out there. So we try to do our very, very best. I always tell my kids, the Bible says study to show thyself approved. You have to kind of really research and not take everything for face value, Yeah.
All of those things are part of the natural
I had
build
to really
up of
advocate,
what we are.
For myself. Like I had to educate, bring it to my doctor, kind of keep pushing, like, no, this isn't right. Something, and I love my doctor. I think I have a great doctor, but we were kind of growing together, like learning as and he's really gotten into this, and,
Well, we learned too that these doctors, they have like no training in menopause.
Yep, that's right.
Like it's so minute, the little bit of training
8
they
hours.
have.
8 hours is the requirement for menopause training for doctors.
Yeah, I know that even Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who is, one of the
leading,
very prominent for doctors who is out there talking about menopause right now. She's even discussed, she's an OBGYN, and she's even discussed that part of her training was just this negligible little bit of time that was given to menopause and perimenopause. It's just astounding. It's astounding. It's like, what, and you've talked about this before, Denise. It's like, what happened? Do we just become invisible?
Yeah.
Just become invisible. It's like, what actually is, is there this cliff that they think that women have just drop off of, and where'd we all go, because we're still out there. We're 51% of the population. And if we live long enough, we're going to go through menopause. So it's an amazing, it's an amazing journey when you start to really look into it and hear more and more voices of women who, thank goodness, are out there and advocating for more education and for women and women's health. And but you really do, as you've all said, you really do have to be a self-advocate. You really do have to say, well, no, actually, I don't think that sleeping pill is what I need. I want to know the root cause. I want to know the root cause of why I'm feeling this way. I don't want something that is just going to pacify the symptom.
Absolutely.
And like Mel said, your sleeping changed immediately, and not sleeping is fucking crazy.
Melatonin and magnesium baths and taking.
And how I'm taking now, the magnesium. That's exactly what I'm taking right now, Melanie.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so important. And how many women are just given tons of sleeping pills? You know,
well, I think our like mom's generations, like our mother's generations, would never be able to have this discussion because they didn't push back, right, on doctors, right? If a doctor said something, doctor was law, right? Whatever the doctor said, that was what you did. You didn't question the doctor. You just went with it. Whether it helped you, hurt you, it worked or it didn't work. Whereas I think, you know, that's why it's rising up now, I think, with our generation, because our generation asks more questions, right? Like we push back more, like you said, we want to be more of an advocate and understand. We're not just going to accept, oh, no, you just need to take, you know, some more, you know, sleeping pills. It's like sleeping pills. Like, what are you talking about? I never had to take sleeping pills before, you know, because they don't want to look into it.
Or you're just going to piss your pants for the rest of your life because you had kids. You just have to deal with it. You know, like
I think we're waking up that we thought women, it was okay for women to suffer. And we're all kind of waking up to actually, no, that isn't the way of things. Like, and it's been quite a shock for me to see that go out in the world, like where people are like, women don't have to suffer. This isn't the way that we're meant to be. We're actually meant to thrive. We're meant to be healthy. We're meant to be well. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be, you know, full of energy. And when we're not, something's up, and we can trust ourselves, and we can listen to our bodies, and it's not foreign. It's our body. And I started to take control of my body, and I started to say, hey, something's not feeling right. And be like, 20 years, money, time, you know, gaslighting, you know, and I'm like, no, something's not right. I don't feel good, you know. So
well, also too, I was talking to my husband about this a little bit, and it wasn't about the menopause specifically, but we were talking because it's Women's Month, right? March, woo woo, the United States, it's Women's Month. And he was telling me about, you know, the women's right to vote in the United States was in just like a little over 100 years ago. Which is not that long ago that women actually started getting a voice, you know, at least in this country. I don't know, you know, what it is for Canada. But when you think about the fact that, oh, it's only been 100 years ago that women have had a voice, and even then they, you know, half of that time they still weren't really listening to us. I think this is a part still of that uprising, right? Of women still like leading with who it is that we are, what it is we have to contribute, like what is going on with our lives, our bodies, our families, our money, you know, all of that. Like we are still, I think, getting our voice out here in the world. And like, that's why I think, you know, the timing is really what's happening and what's so important right now, because we are, if you think about it, because I guess we were born in a generation where we already had a voice, right? But over the history, it's not been that long. You know, like it's really not been a long
it's a blink of an eye, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're so right. Yeah. And things that, you know, we can tell our children or tell people who are, I'm just moving because the sunshine. I love the sunshine, but you know, we can say, it wasn't that long ago when only women of a certain ethnicity could vote too. Like Indigenous women in Canada weren't allowed to vote. And for a while it was only women who were married could vote. You know, you had to sort of belong to a man to be legitimized as somebody. So it's just an amazing process and it's all been in the blink of an eye. And it's hard to believe, really, sometimes when we say these things out loud and go, how many years ago it actually was. It's just like, it's almost like, what?
What? Just think about it. Kamisha is saying 100 years, but the law was just passed in 1974 that a woman can open her own bank account without a man.
Isn't that
if
nuts?
You were a single woman before 1974, you couldn't even have your own bank account unless it was attached to a man.
I know.
The world
is so weird.
It hasn't moved, you know, that fast. We're not so fast moved from all those crazy things, or those things that they thought would be appropriate for a woman to or not to have, you know.
Yeah. And in that reality, you're so right in saying that, so this is its time, because look at the natural progression of how things have changed and how we are now embracing our time, our time that we have here, and that we want to thrive, and we are now demanding more and more things be offered to us so that we can accomplish that. And yeah, it's
I think we don't take it lightly. And I think that's like it's upon the four of us that are here. We're bringing our skills and our talents to the table, and we're doing something about it. That's like we're taking action, and just having these conversations, and just moving into the community and talking about people and embracing ourselves and trusting ourselves. This is the moment. We are seizing it.
Yeah. And this is where Denise says, and we look good too.
We look
damn
dresses and spatulas.
Not your mom's spatula.
That's right. Damn
we
good.
Look damn good.
That's right. And speaking of looking damn good, Miss Melanie, how did menopause affect your confidence? I know your energy level was down. I know we talked about that a little bit, but what about your confidence and your self-esteem and your relationship? How did it affect your relationship?
It kept me questioning myself. I kept saying to myself, oh, I used to do this. I used to be able to, I used to have the energy for this. And I started to feel like I was inside of a wet paper bag often, and, kind of fighting my way out. Hey, Carolyn, like when we're trying to come up with some ideas, or we're working on things, and you're like, and you think,
it's just like,
I used to be really, and you started
the word,
live in the past, like, oh, I used to be that girl, I used to be that woman, and I had to sort of come to terms with, I'm this woman now, and bring myself to now, and to love her now, and be okay with, okay, she has a little brain fog, okay, that's okay, and I used to think, so maybe I'm not that like ballsy woman, like now, but maybe I'm a little bit smarter. Maybe I work a little bit, like I'm a little bit wiser, and so I think that's it was the comparing who I was, and
the sin of
into who I am.
Yeah, we've talked about that. What about your relationship with your partner? How did that take a toll on relationship?
I have the best relationship in the world. I gotta tell you, it's I found my love in my 40s, and just love of my life, and so I'm very fortunate. Like, I really love that. He came and said sorry to me at one point, because I had talked about HRT back in early days, and he said, please, please, please don't do it. I've heard really scary things. I don't want you to do it. And then when I was coming into this, he said to me, when I was getting into looking and doing HRT, he came with tears in his eyes, and he said, I'm really sorry. And he goes, I feel like I swayed you off for like 10 years when maybe you could have been doing something. And I stepped in when I didn't know what I was talking about. I'd actually forgotten that conversation with him, but he carried that in his heart for all those years. And but yeah, no, he's learning a lot. He's supportive. Yeah, it's been I'm fortunate. It's been a good relationship. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. What are some of the things that we're all so unprepared for menopause? It's not just you, Melanie, but there is a sea of women that are completely unprepared. And we grew up in an era where we are taught to just be strong and push through it. You got to feed the kids. You got to do this for the grandkids. You got to do this for your husband. You got to do everything and all the things for everyone but yourself. And so we, not only are we ill prepared, but the medical environment is ill prepared. And they find themselves too proud to say, I don't know shit about it. We need to figure this out together. But instead they misdiagnose you or they dismiss you. And so we're all ill prepared. What do you wish you had known before it all started?
Honestly, that perimenopause was a thing. Like for real. Like, and I almost thought that I would dodge it all because I would just eat right and work out right. And, you know, like, not that it was something that I would actually, I don't know. I wish I understood more that it was a thing and it was natural and it was okay. I feel that I sort of fought against it all along and gaslit myself. And and when you're talking about medical industry and us and everybody, I feel like there needs to be a lot of grace that's placed over all of it, over ourselves, over our doctors, over, we didn't know, and we didn't know, but now we know, right? Now we know, and we know that we can trust ourselves. We know that we can look to ourselves and say, this doesn't feel good. If I'm not thriving, something's off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a key point right there, Melanie. You know, like if you think something is wrong, then it is, right? If you think something is happening in your body, then it is happening in your body. And don't allow these doctors to tell you otherwise. You know, continue to, as you say, advocate for yourself, right? Continue to research on your own and don't just kind of take it as, well, I guess he said it's nothing, it must be nothing, because menopause or perimenopause can last for years, right? So these are years we're talking about where women are suffering without any answers.
In silence.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is Carolyn and I, when we were writing this treatment, she was like, well, let's just call it menopause. And I'm like, oh, maybe we should just, you know, like, we're well beyond beauty. And she's like, well, it's menopause. And I'm like, but if we say that, will people get to, right? Like, and here we are trying to talk about it, but I was, you know, a little like careful about it. So like normalizing and embracing that this is what happens to our beautiful bodies, and they're beautifully doing exactly what they're beautifully meant to do. And in community, with each other.
Yeah, and I think that helps, because many times when you say menopause, so I can see why you would be cringing, you think it's some thing that happens to women when they're really old, right? Like they're not in like still like the prime of their lives. So when you say it, some women I think shy away from it because they're like, oh, I don't even want to think about myself being in that, you know, time of my life or that period or that age.
Menopause with being old.
Yes. In a negative way.
Yeah.
Like old
it is.
breaking like
breaking down,
broken somehow. Exactly. It's not just the next phase or the next natural progression of our biology and
or
physiology.
The center of our life.
Or the center.
Gosh, I love that when you guys said that. That was a good one.
That's right. I know Tamisha went through perimenopause, and she was going to the doctors and doing all the things. And
no, premature menopause. Actually, it was premature. I started going through menopausal symptoms in my 30s. So in my, you know, early 30s. And of course, my doctor, my gynecologist, she did not have any answers for me. She was kind of like, well, you probably just need to like lose weight. Like, lose weight? Okay, you know, because I was having all of these like irregular periods, and I'm, you know, taking pregnancy tests, and I'm like, I know damn well I cannot be pregnant, right? So I'm asking her like, what is going on? Because that was never my cycle, right? I was always very normal. And she was just not very helpful at all. And then I had, you know, my primary care doctor, and then they were giving me all kinds of tests. Like they thought it was a thyroid condition. So I was hyper, then I was hypo, right? But then I also had heart palpitations. So then they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
With that. So they like running me around and they're probing me and my ovaries for all of these things. And I think because of my age, like, you know, like I said, I'm 32 and like fairly healthy. They just didn't know anything, you know, but I also was like very fatigued. Then they thought it was my iron levels and they put me on iron pill. You know, it's like all of these things had nothing to do with menopause. And of course, a person in their 30s, like, I'm not thinking it's menopause.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No, and
exactly.
it was years. It really was years going through different doctors. And then finally, my primary care sent me to an endocrinologist. And the endocrinologist, the woman was the female endocrinologist was the one. And I was maybe like 36, who was like, you are going through menopause. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But like, it was scary, but it was also a relief, right? Because this had been years of me not knowing like what is happening. And then also because there was no one to talk to. Like my mom, I didn't have hot flashes. That was a big thing. So it was never, I couldn't be in menopause if I never had hot flashes.
Yes.
And so I didn't even think of it, right? Because I didn't have hot flashes and other women didn't think of it and doctors didn't think of it. And so it was a really kind of, you know, sad and like you said, scary time because you don't know, like something is happening to my body. Nobody can help me. Nobody can help me figure it out. No one can help me understand it. You're going for more tests. You're thinking you're going to get results and nothing, you know, nothing was happening. Yeah.
And with me, it was a forced menopause. I ended up getting a hysterectomy at 35, and my body went straight into premature menopause. And no one knew nothing. Like I wasn't even.
They didn't warn you.
They didn't even warn me that this could happen. You know, listen, these are the things that could happen. None of that was told to me. And I was out of work for almost 2 months because I thought that I was losing my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going crazy there for a minute. I didn't know what was happening with my body, all the change. It was like all the changes all at once.
Like that.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
Look at us like this, the difference of how it manifests, right? In like 4 of us here, the different experiences and yet similar rubs against medical, similar thoughts, like who do I talk to? I'm going crazy. Like something's not right. I don't know.
It's huge. It's a huge mental thing. Exactly. Because you start to really question yourself. When you're going to people who you trust will give you the answers and they don't have any. And then you start hesitating going again to say, well, now I'm feeling this, because you're like, am I losing my freaking mind? Like, is there the people who are schooled, well, we think are schooled to understand, we thought we're schooled to understand what is happening to me, have no idea what's happening to me. And then of course our minds can go in all kinds of other directions. Like, is this something horrible? You know, is this just foreshadowing, you know, a disease or something else, when all along it's just our body doing what our body does without hormones that are natural to it. And it's so fascinating. And like you said, Mel, like with just the 4 of us sitting here, you know, each of us have had it just sort of a different experience. Same symptoms have crept in, you know, for each of us in different ways. And then other symptoms that I didn't even know about, like dental symptoms. And it's like unreal. Like, and thank God, like I'm learning things too. Because if suddenly I start to have, you know, an issue with my teeth, and at least I, you know, you have a sense of like, this is okay, Carolyn, you know, you're not just, and we have some knowledge. Can you imagine women who still have no freaking idea?
Or the 30-some-year-old women who it never crosses their mind because you're 30s.
Why would it?
So why would it? You know,
like Kamisha's experience with it, going, what the Christ is happening to me? You know,
and I mean, and like you said, the mental part was really hard. You know, there were some parts I feel like I might have been going through some kind of depression, you know,
Yes.
because nobody could help me.
Yeah.
And then the symptoms would get worse. And I swear the heart palpitations, I thought I was about to die. Like I wake up in
The
the
worst.
night with, you know, my heart beating out my chest and shortness of breath. And I'm like, this can't be right. You know, like there's something going on. And then, like you said, I'm thinking I'm dying. Like there's something happening and no one can tell me they're not giving me the right test, you know?
And you start dreaming you're dying and all these things. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, you totally start spinning out and everything. And then I was so relieved. I remember when I, you know, had the endocrinologist who had, you know, had all the blood tests and then told me about my estrogen levels and was like, okay, it's menopause.
Where's the safe place to talk? Where's the safe place to go, like to talk about your symptoms? In preparation of this, I went to Tamsin Fidel's hot menopause party online or whatever. And there's a woman,
I saw that.
Did you? It was so good. So good. But Dr. Jessica Shepard, who's a board certified OB-GYN, she said that a study came out about Black women in menopause, and I was shocked. She said the symptoms start earlier. There's disparity in access for Black women and need better reaching into the community, and it's more intense, longer, and they need better support. And I was like, I was dumbfounded.
And they need better support within the community.
I didn't even, I was shocked. And then another one talking about heart health, and she said heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and it's from estrogen, lowering of estrogen. And she said even if you stack all of the cancers together, it doesn't match the heart death. Even all the COVID deaths doesn't match the heart death. And women just go in for reproductive, so they get mammograms and pap smears. And she said, if you want to talk our language, when you go in for a test, just ask for EKG. EKG. She said that because men, if they come in and they've gained weight and their cholesterol goes up and their blood sugar goes up and they're having these issues, right away they think heart health, like all of the symptoms. They don't for women. It is literally not on their chart to look at the heart. And she said, just start advocating for yourself.
So me and #1 killer. Me and my husband, we go to get our physical together, except for this year. This year we have separate doctors, but for 25 years we had the same internal medicine doctor, a white male doctor. This year I have I chose a female doctor who kind of understands more about menopause, and he has a male doctor. But that white male doctor would always give my husband an EKG every physical. So because he was giving my husband an EKG, I would get an EKG. Didn't know that should be a part of the routine. Normally, I just did it because it's like you're giving it to him and his physical. We want to get all the things. So you give it to him too, because I had suffered from the heart palpitations. Like rather be safe than sorry.
Right.
#1 killer above everything for women. Statins for heart health don't work on women. No, they're not tested on women. They're not effective. They don't work. And women get put on statins for heart. They don't test for it. When women have heart attacks, completely different symptoms than men. It could be in the other arm, it could be feeling fatigue, it could be feeling an ache, it could be feeling like it's not like the one.
It's not the typical.
So different. Anyway.
Wow, you're teaching me something here, Melanie.
Well, I was taking notes, like, because we were gonna have I phoned Carolyn before we were meeting, and I was like, okay, how much notes should I have? Like I'm trying to be I think we're gonna have a conversation.
No, this is amazing because you are right. I mean, we all know, well, maybe everyone doesn't know, but I guess we would know that much of the medical testing is on men, right?
Yes.
So you're doing all this medical testing on men, and especially you're testing pharmaceuticals on men, and then you come back and say, oh yeah, this is what everybody, men and women, when our bodies are not the same, they're totally different. And I was listening to one I think it was a podcast, and they were talking about, why there was some, difference between the studies they do on men and the ones they do on women. And they said that some scientists don't like to do studies on women because they have too many cycles. they have too many
hormones
that are different. And I'm like, that's the point. That's the reason you have to study women.
Right.
But they avoid it. They're like, no, it's too much differentiation between women and all the cycles and the ethnicities and that kind of thing.
Complicated it too much.
Very complicated. So they just tap out of it and they're like, we'll just go for men and just tell you women to do that same thing. But it's like, that makes no sense.
Dr. Mosconi, right? She just did
Lisa Mosconi.
Lisa Mosconi. She just did the brain scans on women in menopause, and talking about the effects of loss of estrogen. And she said, was it normal or whatever? And when in the brain scans, they could see that there was estrogen receptors, in the brain. And so kind of moving through. But when estrogen started to go down, the brain or the body made more estrogen receptors. She said the body is literally starving for estrogen, creating more receptors, trying to suck
trying to get it.
Like it's starving. It's like creating more. She's like, she said, just proving, like, is this in our minds? Is this, we're literally starving for estrogen, So and it affects everything.
It does.
So Ms. Melanie, as we're getting ready to wrap this up, I wanted to ask a couple more questions. And one of them was, I know that you did the medicinal with food. You did that before you did HRT, and I know you did like the keto, you did the 21-day carnivore diet. You did all the things. Give us a little synopsis of each diet, and then let us know what even worked a little bit for you and what you thought of each one of these different lifestyles of eating.
Keto worked really well, but it's just harder to maintain. But it worked really well.
And keto is where you're less carbs, maybe?
Yeah, so if you did a T and you put fats on one side and then you put protein and carbs on the other side, depending on what you wanted to do, if you wanted to lose weight, you made like your fats 2 times and your protein plus carbs 1, right? Like, so 4 to 2, like, so you had ratios that you kept, so you would calculate those.
Right.
I found Dr. Fung, a Canadian doctor who's very sort of led the way in diabetes research and obesity, and so I started doing fasting and following him, and I found fasting to be fabulous for my brain, fog. And we still do fast, but I've done up to like 7-day fast, like just water and coffee. But we'll regularly
have coffee. Thank you, God, you said that.
I quit coffee a little while ago, and I was so bitchy, and I was so grumpy, and I was like, honestly, it's just not even worth living for me. There's just no joy without coffee. I'm like, no, I'm having coffee. But and coffee shows to support fasting, and there's a lot of things in it. But at the same time, when I started going a little weird in my body, the cortisol, fasting starts a cytokine storm inside. And so I can get to about 3 days and I start getting a little buzzy. And so I went on an antihistamine diet, all of that to say, and I shared that with you guys because I tried everything and the weight still came. And do you know what I mean? Like, so when women beat themselves up and say, well, I had a trainer that said, I said, it's not working. And they said, well, sprint uphill more. That's what you got to do. And I mean, it's so that gaslighting for women, exercise, eat less. You must be cheating. I know myself, maybe other people are. I know myself. I fast literally for 7 days. Like I can shut it down. Didn't work. I still got a middle tire. My weight went up. Like, so there's
Carolyn,
something else.
I can't shut it down for 7 minutes. Lord have mercy. I'm gonna have to work on this thing.
I started teaching people about keto. And people were like trying to break sugar. And so I wrote a book about breaking sugar in 3 days. I was like, let's go, like we can do it.
What's the name of your book, Melanie? What's the name of your book?
What is it? It is sugar detox.
Sugar detox. And
3 days to freedom.
How can people get your book?
They're all on Amazon.
Okay. 3 days to freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's always workbooks, but it's just really straightforward. 3 days. Like I saw all the plans that were 30 days, 90 days. I was like, no, let's just break sugar. Three days, break it. Then you do a little fast, and then you're off to the races with your keto and whatever. But and it works. But
what was the 21-day carnivore?
That didn't work for me. I like that chewing the steak or whatever. So I eat salmon but I was like, I just can't eat all that meat. Like Carolyn.
She's sharp-eared.
That's why you don't have no damn side.
I totally missed that one.
especially you don't have a damn side tooth. Now you got
and I found that to be an issue too. Oh, it was, and I didn't lose any weight. I lost like, I think I lost 5 pounds in that 21 days, but I locked it down, tried it out. Like, I guess what I wanted to say here, and the reason I shared it is I tried everything. I literally tried everything. And so some things worked. The HRT worked. My doctor, I said, I'm turning 60 in August and this weight. And he goes, okay, like, let me help you. Like, let's do this. He said, I think if we up the estrogen, that your weight's going to start coming off. He said, another patient of his went up to 5 milligrams and the weight started coming off. Things started happening. And I'm noticing my energy, like my brain is changing again at 1 milligram just in the last 2 weeks. And my family's noticing. I submitted for some funding for a documentary, and it was a lot of paperwork. I'm thinking, like I'm rolling, right? And I've got ideas and I'm on again. I'm like, okay, hello, Melanie. Like feeling.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. What do you want other women to know? As we're wrapping this up, this has been a beautiful conversation. By the way, I think that this series could be so many different. Like you've done so many different things that we can literally take each thing and make an episode to drill down to how it helped and what it didn't help. Because there's probably so many women out there who don't know what's going on with them. They're just trying all the things. They're just doing everything to figure out what they can do to help themselves, So what is it that you would love for others to know,
So my mom died when I was 47, and I thought to myself, who am I going to talk to? Like these intimate conversations. I don't have a wise woman in my world. She was it. And that I wrote these down, and I said, I want to be that for other women. And I want us to be that for, like, now we know, like, say something. Like, that's why I'm here on your show today. That's why I'm like, women blooming, like, and there's a lot to it, but our health is key. Like it's so much, and we're meant to thrive. So
we are.
We're meant to be bold. I said, I want that for other women. Be bold, live well, stay curious. We're all going through this, so we might as well go through it together.
I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What would you like to close us out with tonight, Miss Carolyn? With your beautiful
I always come out with something a little bit shocking, don't I? I need to tone that down. Maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna let you go, because when Kanisha go, we might have to hold on to our seats.
We do hold on, and I get my pen out and get ready to write it down. I just like to say that I loved this conversation, and I do believe that all of these conversations, whoever's having them, us having them, other platforms, in different venues, books that are coming out, all of these voices of wisdom, voices from women who are supporting women are starting to happen. And I'm so appreciative that even within my own circle of dear people that that you three are part of, that we can talk about the things that we're learning and share, and hopefully if a few women hear this and relate to it, then we're making progress.
Yeah. Amen. I love that.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
I
was just gonna say thank you, ladies, for joining us on this wonderful evening and having this like much needed conversation. And we need to have more of these conversations and keep talking about women and what we are going through at this stage and in the center of our lives, you know, as Carolyn has said. And it's like, so it's just so important. So that was it. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Keep blooming, ladies.
Keep blooming.
Keep blooming. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.